I'm going to make this intro short and sweet because my ears are tired listening to all of the trading ideas from Christian and Dennis. I got a few up my sleeve too. It's Turnaround Tuesday on Pre-Market Prep. The spoos are green. Let's get things started.
The volatility right now is really incredible.
Wow, look at that consolidation on the upper right chart.
You know what we've seen this earnings season? Some of these expected moves get even more violent. And this is why I have switched my strategy 10 years ago. And if you're chasing, you're in trouble.
All right, in the green, just like that. 5 handles, 30 handles off the low. The battle for 6,000 is there, folks. The dollar futures, they're down 20 cents here. Ooh, finding resistance here. Let's call it 106.75. TLT perking up 85 cents, back up to that just $90 level. See if we can make that support. USO, ooh, that's trying to find support too. Down 64 cents, 75.33. GLD down a buck 17, but still hanging out near all-time highs, 271.04. Silver to laggard. How many times you heard me say that? Down 46 cents at 26.98. And Bitcoin, let's make it easy. Down 5K on the nose. Those are the futures at 88,980. I am going to remove my screen, and Dennis is gonna pop on, and Dennis is all perky, and Christian is ready to go, folks. Turnaround Tuesday is just begun, maybe.
Maybe. That's a big question mark here. We put it with a question mark on the show because we have seen a bounce off the lows. Like, I mean, if you came in 2 hours ago, and I've been at my desk for I came in at 5:40 this morning, so 2
How
hours
come,
and 20
Dennis?
minutes.
How come?
I had a lot of positions on, and I had a lot of earning stocks on. And I wanted to get ahead of the earning stocks too. Like, I just, sometimes I'm just
What's a
in some
lot of
earning stocks.
positions?
What's that? What are you
What's a
asking?
lot of, yeah, how many positions? 60?
Uh, I think I had about 60 overnight positions, so I had quite a few. A lot of high flyer names too, though. So I was in a whole bunch of different stuff. But I also had a position in Home Depot. I also had a position in SRE, which was due to report. Yeah, so I had a few positions that were due to report earnings too. And Home Depot didn't work out. The SRE did work out. But yeah, so sometimes I get up early when I just got a lot of positions on.
Okay, Christian, and how you doing here on this potential turnaround Tuesday?
Potential, I think, is the right thing, and we are seeing a little bit of a move, right? Just recently, and yeah, that's a question. I mean, things really looked ugly towards the end of the day yesterday. I thought you guys, called it very well with, what we saw with the small little move up yesterday pre-market, and then of course sellers coming in, and in the first, half hour of the day, we got a nice swoosh lower. We got that bounce yesterday, but the bounce ran out of steam. We had more tariff talk and
Mm-hmm.
semiconductors. Really, Nvidia did not look good at the end of the day, so it didn't make for a very good day. And it kind of brings us to this Tuesday. And I see you got hymns up there. I
Yeah.
actually like. I want to get your opinion, guys. Like, we've seen so many of these small tech, small growth companies, not small tech, but small growth companies go up on earnings. I actually like that a couple of them have gapped down because it kind of gets this euphoria that we've seen with some of these earnings moves where they go up and then they get sold off. I actually like these names moving down. What do you guys think?
Sometimes you get that early washout, and then you can get the bounce where you're like, I can't take it anymore. Just get me out. I mean, let's just talk the hymns for a second here. Obviously, the earnings came out. The setup ended up completely different than when we did pre-market prep, though, because it sold off so much during the day. And then we were tweeting about the 10 o'clock turn. And I was tweeting about the 10 o'clock turn, and Joel was tweeting about the 10 o'clock turn. And it was the 10 o'clock turn. It was the 10 o'clock turn for just so many of those high-flying Momo names. And Hims turned as well. It was down to $44 in the 44 handle at 10 a.m., almost like the clockwork.
Right here,
And it
baby.
started rallying and rallying and rallying, and it went up to 51. So, I mean, the setup kind of changed because you had the washout down to 44, And then you had like an 18% intraday rally, which is just incredible. So as much as it looked like it was weak going into the report, it ended up, if you included the action from yesterday, kind of strong going into the report. Being, talking 43.81 the low, closing at 51.31. You're talking about a 20% intraday move higher into the report. So the setup completely changed. And, so that's why I didn't take it long through the report, because I was like, well, this is a different setup now. I actually did buy some at the 10 o'clock dip yesterday. Wish I would have held longer because I didn't think it was going to rally 20% intraday, but it was a huge move. So then it comes out, reports. The stock initially actually popped up to 55, I believe. So it was a big pop. And then the sellers just emerged and they would not lay off. And then they've hammered it. So, I mean, now it's down significantly, but like, where do we go from here, Christian? I mean, you're saying, you like the gap down here. Would you consider, if you see, your setups here, would you consider nibbling in something like this?
Not Hims is not one I've been trading, and not this is not one I'm just going to watch as like a proxy for small growth.
Yep.
There's so many other stocks that are down that I would rather go after. And I think someone put in the chat that the PE is 118 or something like that. That's too much for me. And but there's so many other stocks that are down that I think that if you want to go buy the dip, you could do it in so many other names.
That's great. Using it as a proxy. Just real quick, they were in line on the EPS. They beat on sales slightly. The revenue guide is not bad either. I think there's a couple different things happening with this one. And can you believe this stock has basically had a 2-for-1 stock split? It hit 72.98
in 5 days.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, incredible, fall, like down over 40% in 5 days. These are big falls. So now you get down here, this 30 to 40. This is where you had all kinds of support before. I don't think you're getting down to 30. So I don't know, like, is there a bounce trade in here? I think there's a potential for a bounce trade. I think if I'm setting this up for a bounce trade, what you want to see is, one, where does it open? Does it cut through and then get back up through it? Something you taught me back in 1999, which is a great strategy when you're trading stocks and are moving quickly, is where does it open? And then you get a cut through, and then you get back up through the open. If you retake that opening price, that's where you strike, and then you use the low of the day as your stop. That trade works really well because you pick up all the reversals. Like when you're playing that strategy, you pick up the intraday reversals. So again, I'll just repeat it. So let's just say hypothetically, HIMS open at 40 bucks, cuts down to 38, and then rallies up to 40 and gets above the opening price, like say 40.50. Then you strike, you buy it, and then you stop yourself out at the 38 low saying, hey, I think there's a potential for an intraday reversal here, and maybe, we just washed everybody out. But just, to blindly say, okay, 40, 30, goes 39, 38, 37, well, I know it's coming back eventually. You got to have a plan. When you're coming in on a stock that's down 20% and you're thinking about buying it, you got to have a plan. You can't just go blind 21. And I know blind squirrels get nuts all the time. But I mean, having a plan is such a better setup, and having some risk management on it is such a better setup. I think I wait to see where this thing opens, and then let that the trading action kind of dictate if I'm going to take a trade or not.
Do we have the short interest on this one? Because I mean, if you've been trading this thing from the short side, you just been getting whipped around. I mean, I'll tell you, I would not be shorting you down $11. And I like your setup. The setup too, excuse me, you got to use a stop to catch something like that, because if it comes back up through it, if you're like eyeballing it, it's tough to get. So that's a look at it.
33 is the short interest, by the way.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos in the chat is saying it was 40. Well, TX traders on there said 40 one time. Jeff Bezos saying it was 32. So 32, 33. I mean, it's a moving target, but it's got a significant short interest. Those shorts are right. I mean, that's the one thing is everybody, there's so many strategies you read about on the internet, and you read about on, social media. And they're like, just buy those high short interest names, and eventually those have short squeezes. Well, sure they do. But a lot of times they continue to leak. And I'm going to tell you, when a stock is at 30% short interest, there's a reason for it. Do you want to know something? Hard truth, the shorts are usually right. The shorts, write that down. The shorts are usually right. That's informed money. Sometimes they're wrong, but more often than not, they're right. So when you see these high short interest, 35, 40%, usually those stocks leak. They get violent little squeezes, but it's like elevator down, and then you have that, or escalator down, elevator up. escalator down, elevator up. Exact opposite to, what we just saw in Palantir, escalator up, elevator down. So just keep that in mind too, that the shorts are often right. Sorry to rain on your parade, but not every stock equals a short squeeze. And in this
Yeah,
case, they were absolutely right.
and Lilly lowering price of Ozempic is definitely not
And it's
helping
up
them.
on that. So here's my thoughts. Lilly comes out this morning, we're going into the news, and they come out with a headline, and they're talking about launching. I guess there's a whole bunch of headlines there, but I also noticed the price lowering too here today. Weight loss drug for $150 less than injector pen. I'm just kind of reading through, but I guess there was multiple headlines, so it wasn't just that headline. But it's always surprising they lower a price and then the stock rallies on it. And I was like, that doesn't sound bullish when you're lowering the prices, but just me. Let's talk Lilly. I mean, the stock has come a long ways back from the lows. This weight loss, craze is still obviously on. The story is starting to get hot again here. Christian, thoughts on Eli Lilly, LLY?
Yeah, I'm just going to look at my chart here. I'm watching this top of value here. That's right around 892. Interesting to see it come back. You've got a great point here. I think I don't want to be buying it here. I think it's
No
in
way.
the sector that it's in right now is performing pretty well. Also, I'm watching XLV, the healthcare ETF, right at 147.60. We've seen a lot of strength there, but my thought on Eli Lilly is that the weight loss theme has peaked. So I
I
still
think it
believe
has
that.
too.
I still believe that, and I'm not buying it.
I'm with you here, and I've said that. The chat's calling me out on it because they always, write down when I'm wrong. I definitely have been saying I think the Lilly, that the short that situation where everybody's doing the shots is kind of had its day. Now I think the story is not gone, but the story went ice cold. It's starting to perk up again, though. It's starting to get interesting. What about some of the laggard trades here? Like we know
Wait, hold on.
MBO.
Before you move off the Lily here, I
Yeah,
just wanted to,
give me a level.
this is not investment advice. But holy mackerel. If you've sat this thing out since the end of October and you sat out the round trip from 900 to the double bottom at 712 and you're back up at 900 and you're getting a gap fill and it's a whole number. Whew, I ain't buying it. No way. And if I had this for a swing trade or anything, I mean, I'd keep an eye on the price action today. But how many times you see the gap fill, a little bit more of it, and then it completely comes apart. So that's what I'll be looking at. The
Win.
actual gap fill in Lilly comes in at 898.21. You did get a look at that in the pre-market, hitting $900, 900 right on the nose. So we'll see where it can open. And this is another one where, man, let's say I'm dead wrong. It holds 900. It goes to 907.59 and a half. And then it comes back in through 900. Then I mean, to me,
Opposite to what we just set up.
yes. Yep.
So, and again, we want to, take time to talk strategy on here. I think Joel's absolutely correct. I mean, if you're thinking about shorting a Lilly and you're thinking, okay, I think this news could turn, see where it opens. And maybe it opens, rallies a little bit, and then maybe get the turn and maybe you take out those lows. I mean, that's always an opportunity as well. Christian, you were going to say something?
Uh, what was I going to say? Well, I was going to, if it's okay, I was going to just turn the page a little bit,
Sure.
or
Okay.
turn the topic. I find it very interesting. I know that we had headlines about tariffs and about how tariffs are supposed to go through with Canada and Mexico, right? There was an interview yesterday. I think a reporter asked a question, "Hey, what's going to happen with the tariffs? At the end of that month that they delayed them for." And I believe Trump said that they're going through. Now, you would think the conventional wisdom is that rates are supposed to go higher with tariffs. You look at what TLT is doing, and
Opposite. Yep.
TLT is not going lower, which means that rates are going higher. TLT is rallying again. So you're now taking out, I think on that upper right chart there, I think that takes out again. I don't think that's going to
90.
update for the pre-market activity, but you've got a really nice move in bonds again. So it's very counterintuitive to what's happening with tariffs, because that's what everybody says anyway, is that yields are, oh my God, yields are supposed to go higher if they inflict tariffs. And you got the opposite going on right now, and bond yields are going down.
You know why I think TLT is rallying though, Christian? I think it's nervousness because TLT is the ultimate safety trade too. So I don't think it's, for the reasons that they think, the Fed is going to, be, and tariffs aren't going to be inflationary. I think TLT is simply rallying because the market's playing defense right now. And if we look, we have other evidence of that, which we were talking about this morning. The consumer staples have been absolutely on fire. I mean, they rally when you're nervous. When Palantir starts getting hit, they go into the Cokes and the Pepsis. They go into the consumer staples. So XLP has been on an incredible tear here. Utilities been on a pretty good tear as well. So kind of telling you that.
Like a risk off thesis.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the TLT is rallying more for risk off as opposed to where traders think interest rates are going. I think they're just hiding there right now. So,
I agree with that. I also think that all the policies right now are slowing down the economy right now. Are there, or if, as Blue talked about, potential recessionary? I mean, losing all these government jobs, less government spending, to me, without doing it, kind of backhanding Powell, slapping him around a little bit, because everything that we're seeing in these policies are not good. Are not are The market's going to need some juice. So I think all those factors that you guys just mentioned are excellent, but I also think it without coming out and directly attacking people like he does with so many. This is kind of like the back door to get them to put some pressure on the Fed to lower rates. So a lot of combinations. Nice breakout here, TLT above 90. So we'll see if that rally can hold.
just continuing on the consumer staples theme, and I want to ask Christian this too. I mean, you brought up Philip Morris this morning. This has been an incredible run. I mean, when your consumer staple stock goes from 120 to 160 in a month, and it's basically just playing defense here, I think you sell it. I mean, this Philip Morris, and again, you're looking at why sell stock making new all-time highs, but this is an outlier move. Philip Morris doesn't move like this. This is a gift. So I think, when you're looking at a PM trading, and again, this move this year, it started the year around 120, 160. It's up 30%. This is not an AI name. This is a stock that actually is in the business of killing people for real. They're in the business of cigarettes. So I think this is a stock that you actually take the profits and run on and say, hey, there is these gifts every once in a while when you have stocks that move 10% a year, that move 30% all of a sudden. I think those are the times you ring the register and you move on. I think you're going to get a shot back on Philip Morris, probably back at 130 again at some point in time. So I would sell my PM today if I had it.
Yeah, and I think just as I mentioned that HIMS is a proxy for me for small cap growth. I think this is also like, I'm not trading this. I'm just been kind of watching. It's just a proxy for risk off, as well as what some of the healthcare stocks are doing, as you just mentioned with consumer staples. If these things are ripping higher like Philip Morris is, it's a sense of where the risk appetite is right now and what people feel comfortable in right now. And these things go hand in hand. Yields go lower and people want to be in also high dividend stocks again too. So
they do.
It's a back and forth, and I know you guys are very good in relationships, but so you kind of have to look around and look at what some of these groups are doing, and it gives you a sense of overall market field.
So that's where we stand on the overall market feel here. Let's jump into a few more earnings stocks here because there was quite a few of them. There's also news stocks here too, and maybe we should actually, before we go to the earnings, maybe we should talk SMCI because this is D-Day for SMCI. It has to file its 10K here by the end of the day. I think the deadline is 5:30. Actually, I read that on the internet, so I don't know if you can believe everything you read on the internet.
Oh yeah, you can believe
if they don't file, they're going to get delisted. Now, they said last week that they are going to file. The market is anticipating that they are going to file because it is trading up 4% here right now. The stock was actually down at 5:30 when I woke up this morning. It was down 2 points. I was long it because I was like, I think eventually it's going to get a pop because I think it's going to file. It's popped, and I've already sold it. It didn't even file yet. So I guess, people are like, it's going to get the filing out there and we're going to live happily ever after. So I don't know like what the management intends here, but they're waiting till the very last second. I mean, hard to do a stock technically when fundamental news is going to be breaking here, and we still haven't heard anything from BDO. But Christian, I mean, you trade these Momo stocks, and you've been in and out, on some of these names. What do you think of SMCI?
I don't like what the risk associated with it with the headlines. So when something is, there's been just a lot of groups where I've just been kind of watching because I don't particularly like when there's an overhang like that, and I feel like I don't have any control or a good feel of like what is going to happen with a headline and so forth. So again, I kind of just watch. And I haven't been trading SMCI at all. I think you're right. I think that they come out and kind of save the day in terms of filing. But I again, like even if they satisfy those requirements, to me that's not like a great reason to be like, oh, they're they can file their report. I don't know that to me that doesn't seem bullish. Like, okay, great, you should be doing that. So
You should have did it a long time ago.
right. So I mean that's not a reason. That's never been a reason for me to go out and buy a stock because they're meeting their accounting obligations, regulations. So I don't know. That's sorry, I don't have a good answer for you.
I mean, I would just look at the parameters that you have, and if it looks like it's good and it gets up in the 60 handle, I think. Well, right now there's a double top at 62.5. Forget about the 66.44. So if it's good news, you're looking to exit. I look at that area, and then if it's bad news, I mean, the 50-day is way down here at 35.80. But I think the retracement would have went from seven. Let's just call it seven. This is call it a 50-point move. 25 and 17 is 42 when I went to school. So boy, oh boy,
But what
look at
one
that
other
area.
point too, I'm just reading some of the comments in the chat too. I mean, look at its competitors. Like I get that people look at how high the stock once was, but I'll tell you, the stock's not going back. In my opinion, you guys want to hear your opinion about this too, but I don't think the stock is going back. Like I get that people look and they say, oh my God, they have these accounting issues. Once they clear them up, the stock's going to go back to the highs. I
Yeah.
don't think so. Take a look at VRT, right? That's a name that's in the same business.
Yeah.
VRT
Good call.
doesn't have any accounting issues. Do you think that that's going to go back to the highs of 152 because the stock's trading under 100 right now?
Yeah, it got
So
killed. I actually bought VRT in my long-term account yesterday, so I don't know if I think it's going back to the highs, but I think the selling is overdone. People always say never catch a falling knife. I will tell you, my long-term investing account, I catch falling knives all the time. I sometimes get cut up pretty bad, but I sometimes have some really good trades off of those too. So I think, we were 150 3 weeks ago. We're 90. I feel like it's overdone and due for a bounce here. I don't know if we're going back to 150, but I tell you, if we're back to 110, it'd be a damn good trade. So I just think we're overdone on a lot of these stocks. Like, amazing. A week and a half ago, we're talking about how, Palantir will never stop, and all these other ones. And we've had so many stocks now that have done the exact opposite. I mean, even back to my Micron, I sold that at 106 4 days ago. It's 95. I said if it got back to 92, 93, I'll rebuy it. I might get that shot today. So just again showing you, I think we're in this market where we're in chop land, choppy. So as much as you want to sell rips, I do think you want to buy dips too. So I know everybody in the media wants a bear market because it's something cool to talk about. And maybe that's coming, but I don't think it is. I think we're going to have ups and downs and lefts and rights and Trump dumps and Trump pumps. And the tariffs is a wild card. Maybe it throws us into a recession. It's definitely not going to be good for Canada. I would stay away from Canadian stocks right now, even though I'm Canadian. But I think there's, still opportunities here in a trading market to buy dips and sell rips. And I'm not, afraid to come in and try to catch the falling knife. I did that on Nvidia a couple weeks ago at 113. Then went to 140. So, I mean, it looked terrible. People are like, it's over for NVIDIA 113. Well, it wasn't over. A lot of times, folks, it's not over.
You know what? Your Canada chart doesn't look too bad, Dennis. I mean, I'm just
I'm
looking at.
nervous. But again, we got to read don't even read the writing on the wall. Just flat out read the writing. Read what he's saying. Tariffs are coming. March 5th, I believe he said, to March 4th or March 5th. The deadline is coming. I don't know what metrics Canada can come up with to say the fentanyl, is all of a sudden, went way down, it's going across the board. It's going to be difficult to do. So I believe they are going to put tariffs in. That is going to be epically, epically, epically bad for Canadian stocks. So I think at this point in time, a lot of these Canadian stocks have had a nice rally. Hell, you got BMO reported here this morning. It's trading up this morning. I think it's an opportunity to sell. So I have been lightening up my Canadian exposure because I think the U.S. is going on full economic war against Canada. And I don't want to be long, a whole pile of Canadian stocks when Trump's waged war against them.
He did. It was supposed to be February 1st, Dennis. Remember? That was the mandate.
Yeah, it was
and
30
then
days.
Now what's it supposed to be?
The March 5th. He said yesterday. He flat out said it. Tariffs are going in March the 5th. You think he's bluffing? I don't think he's bluffing.
Yeah.
Maybe he is, and then you get a rally there too. That would be an argument to buy stocks right now. Yeah. But the one other consideration here is I'm in Canada. I talk to my real estate guy, Jeff, all the time. Nothing's selling. Stuff is slow. Stuff was slow prior to tariffs. If tariffs do come in and Canada, you think about cities like Windsor, that live, off of the big three. I mean, it's going to hurt Canadian stocks. So that's my warning is like, if I'm investing right now and taking new money in, I'm not buying Canadian stocks. That's where I'm at. I'm sitting here looking out there. Stuff is slowing down, man.
Okay. I mean, you're out there, you got boots on the ground, and maybe I just have my, my blinders on, technical blinders, but with everything that's been going on in the threats and everything, this hit, it doesn't move a ton. It's been as high as an all-time high at 43.33, and it looks like there's a solid bid at 40, 39.5 and 40. So, that could be taken out in one full swoop on March 3rd. I'm just saying for everything that's going on, the money is not treating it, the EWC, that way. Maybe they'll regret it, but that's the way it's being looked at.
It's also the market that prices in nothing. Like, I really believe that this right now, and I want to get Christian's thoughts on this too, but I've traded professionally here for 26 years. I'm going to say this might be the dumbest market that I've ever traded in. Like, we've talked about obvious trades. They don't do any obvious trades. Like, nothing is obvious. Like the tariffs the last time with Canada, he's flat out said, we're going to put the tariffs in. And then, he was going to go ahead and obviously do it. And there was the last second, save. But I mean, EWC got crushed that day. And there was a lot of money to be made. And then the bounce back, and a bounce back. But there are so many trades that are just flat out obvious trades that the market just completely ignores. Even to the pricing in certain things like the Hims late sell-off after all the other Momo names were going. There's a lot of opportunities here. Christian, you've traded for a lot of years here too. What do you feel like overall landscape, on this market? Thoughts, on dumb money. The dumb money is all over the place. It's rampant. You're on mute. Christian's on mute. I mean, I can unmute him myself.
Sorry, did I do that? Maybe I did that. Okay.
That's okay.
In any event, I needed a timeout. But I think with the tariffs,
I need a towel.
with the tariffs, I do think that there's a couple things going on. I do believe, and maybe this is wrong to be optimistic, but I believe that the bark is going to be bigger than the bite. But there's going to be short-term pain because I think eventually Trump is also going to look at what the market is doing. And if the market is up, and if the market was up at all-time highs, and the tariff deadline comes up, he would probably say, "Hey, I have room to kind of mess around because the market's doing great. It's probably up too much." With the market down, even though it's only down 3% from the highs, I feel like he doesn't. He has nothing then to kind of jump up and down about and say, "Hey, look at how great since I came aboard." So I think he's going to be softer because he's looking at what the market's doing. And if they inflict more tariffs, then the market, it has the chance for the market to sell off more. And he doesn't want that. So I do believe that the bark is bigger than the bite. And that's what it's been so far. Again, I think we are going to get to a point where he's going to, he does want those tariffs, and then maybe he can dial them back, and he's using them as a bargaining tool. But to answer your question, or to try to answer your question, it's a dicey market. That's uncertainty. The market doesn't, there's always uncertainty in the market, but there's levels of uncertainty, and that's what's causing what we're seeing. And I do think that's why you see, to your point about why treasuries are rallying, it's a risk off environment. So I think that's kind of what we've got going on right now, is that there's a lot of uncertainty, and the market, what we're seeing in the market is the result of it. So to your point about the dumbest trades, I don't know. Like I think that, looking at some of the areas that are rallying, I think that yes, a lot of younger traders and investors are not looking at consumer staples. They're not looking at healthcare stocks. They're still looking at the same stocks. So yeah, so that's my take, and I think that and that's why we're in this range right now, and that's why the range is getting bought, because things aren't so bad, but we're not going to break out either with that kind of uncertainty.
And he also could get to his desired effects, with the posturing that he's taking, right? I mean, he already got what Apple's like going to spend 87 billion to to build plants here and stuff. You know, get your desired effect with with your rhetoric. You can do it. Anyways, S&Ps are still
Yep.
moving higher here. Now we are now 30 handles off that pre-market low. Now people are scratching their head and like, turnaround Tuesday. What are they talking about? The market's up. We need to do we want to do Zoom? Do we really care about Zoom? Because we're
It's
talking.
down big, so actually it's bounced. So it was down big. I saw it down way more than that. Yeah, we can do it quickly. I mean, PayPal, I had their investor day too, so we want to talk that eventually too. We got Brian Shannon come on here in a couple of minutes, but I'll just give you the Zoom earnings, and then you guys can break down the technicals here. Zoom reported $1.41 versus $1.30 and 1.18 billion in line revenue there. Sales a little bit light. The guidance a little bit light. And we're talking a smidgen of all smidgens. 2026 revenue see 1.162 to 1.167. Analyst estimates for 1.175. EPS they're seeing $1.29 versus $1.31. So they're looking to miss by a nickel. I mean, they're looking to miss by a nickel. So it's pretty light. But again, this market, sees the guidance lower and they punish. I guess it's 77. So it's off the lows a bit. It's down 4%. I don't know. What are you guys thinking on Zoom?
Kind of a curveball on the you hit the pre-market low right at 77. I probably would have been looking for this low right here well, no, that was 78.78. The next daily low 76.38. I think this one maybe wait a day or two. I mean, I think I've established a couple lows and just right in the same area here, wherever that may be today. And the monthly looks like it's kind of coiling here. Look at that super long consolidation. I don't know. There may be some dip buyers out here in Zoom. They just haven't come up with anything new in so long. It's hard to get excited about the stock. Christian, any fundamental or technical comments on Zoom?
Pass. Next.
Next.
I got nothing.
Always allowed to do that.
What about Bitcoin? Let's save that for Brian because
Brian's
Brian
coming.
Shannon.
Home Depot real fast. We're gonna do Home
Can we
Depot in
talk
1 minute here.
Home Depot. How about China too?
Yeah,
We'll do
Home
China
Depot,
after Brian.
Okay,
That'll
okay.
be a good
Yeah,
topic.
well, Brian
Right.
could talk China too, probably. Home Depot 302,299, 39.7. Be on the top, be on the bottom. Slight beat. Guidance light. 1446 versus 1555. Algo C guidance light. They hammer stocks. What are you talking about, Dennis? It's up $2. No, they hammered this down to 366 on the initial numbers. How do I know? I was in the damn thing. So, and it wasn't pretty. I was like, what the hell? They really hammered it. Anyways, they did buy the dip. They came in 370, 372, 374, 376, 378, 380, 382, and lo and behold, we don't even care if the guidance is light here now. We forgot about the light guidance. Stock up. So, I mean, lower bar, maybe. Stock was down into it. Christian thoughts, Home Depot. Then we're going to Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that the comp sales are missing. Actually, wait a minute, the comp sales were a little bit better. So I think the fourth quarter comp sales plus 0.8%. So again, not a huge number, a little bit less than 1%, but they were estimating down 1.7. So I think this is it sold off into the report. I think it stays. I think it has a chance to close green for the day. I know it's right around green right now for the day, but I think that the stock is beaten up enough that it could possibly hold here. I'm also looking at. I'm just going to show you just my charts
Sure.
real quick here. Whoops, got the wrong one. Add the stage. But I also see if this level doesn't hold here, this 378 level. This to me looks like left. Right, looks like a big head and shoulders pattern. Now, it's not a head
I
and
see it.
shoulders pattern until it breaks. So 378 is the level that I'm watching. Perhaps this can hold and you begin to get a bounce higher. I think Home Depot, especially like going into the spring season too, Home Depot usually does better. I think it's at a good place as long as it holds that 378, and I would be a buyer at that level.
Christian's giving you support. I'm giving you a great resistance for today, even though it trade above it. Let's see what happens at yesterday's high. Believe it or not, 86.55. So I think if the Bulls want to give this one a lift, I think you get it above 386.55. We got Brian Shannon from Alphatrends in the background here. Yeah, we're late. It's 8:36. What else is new? Let's run that intro. All right. Good morning, Brian. How you doing on this turnaround Tuesday?
Well, let's see, right? I'm doing good. Let's see if the market cooperates. Real quick on Zoom, there is an anchor off of the August low that comes in at about 76.5. And the real good thing would be for a turnaround in this stock is if it undercut that January low of 76.38. If it did a slight undercut of that and then started to recover, I think that would be a really great spot for this stock. Because I heard you just, wondering if there's technical levels. That's how I look at it.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Not try and catch a falling knife. The old dip under the low, come back above, and then let's say that low is 75.60. You have a point. A setup, a great setup. But you know what we haven't discussed yet? Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, yeah. Bitcoin is, doing what it's supposed to do. I've been talking about this for a while in terms of the anchored VWAP from the election. If you go back and look at, one of my Twitter charts there, I've been talking about this for the last several weeks. We've been just hammering on that anchor from the election, and it's really held persistently. But over the last month, since the beginning of the year, really, we've seen these lower highs coming in on Bitcoin, and we've just been chipping away at the bid on that anchor from the election at about 95. Yesterday, we were right as the market was opening. I said, looks like a great day for this thing to sell off. Looks, imminent. And we've come down to a couple of key levels. I've purchased a little bit so far as a bounce trade, but I'm hoping that we continue to sell off down towards about 81,000, where there's an anchor off of the August low of last year in Bitcoin. So it's undergoing profit taking, and this is good for it, I think.
Brian, can you explain, because obviously some newer listeners may not be familiar with your trading strategies when you're talking anchored VWAP. Can you explain that?
Yeah,
hey, Brian, I don't mean to throw you a curveball here, but have you ever shared charts on StreamYard before?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, actually,
we'd
that'd
love
be
to see your
great.
charts.
Let me, I have a StreamYard account, and I don't
You
seem
can
to
do it
be
right from here.
I don't seem to be very good at it. Share screen. I've got it. So
Okay.
here we go. Is that, did I share the right thing? Is that Bitcoin there? Can you see it?
Yeah. Boom. Look at
Okay.
that.
Boom. Love it.
Cool. So here's the to answer your question, Dennis, as well, to explain to the audience, the anchored volume weighted average price simply tells us the average price that an asset traded at, and Christian's got a great book on it right behind his left shoulder there. Anyways,
Your book?
That is my book. Yeah.
Nice.
So the anchored volume weighted average price tells us here's the average price that whatever asset you're looking at has transacted from a certain date. Now, in terms of Bitcoin, we obviously saw that there was a huge catalyst here with the election. That was November 6th right here. And that's when Bitcoin really took off. So the average price, long, shorts, everything in between, hedgers, that is the price that it's traded at since that event. So you can see that we keep hammering on it, kept hammering on it. That is telling us the more time support is tested, the more likely it is that that bid is likely to, be filled, and we run out of demand in that level. So we had that telling us that a breakdown was likely. Then we had these lower highs coming into it. So not only were the sellers getting more aggressive time-wise because of those repeated tests of support, but they're also getting more aggressive price-wise because we saw the lower highs coming in, and that last lower high last week came in right at this red. The bright red is the year-to-date anchor. The thicker red, the burgundy, I guess, was the anchor off of the high from last year, and the black is the high, all-time high. So what that tells us is, from these points, from the beginning of the year, the average price is right about 99.5. The average price off of this all-time high is about 99.5. And that tells us that the psychology of the owners, that they're getting tired of it coming down to 96. The sellers took control at 99.5, and then we broke down to this anchor, this one. And like I said, I'm hoping we can pull back down probably in the next week or two, down towards this 80 level. So I'm starting a small position. My average price is just about 88. I bought one piece here, two pieces here, and if it does this, I'm going to get very aggressive down here. So Bitcoin, it's interesting that I always talk about don't buy the dip, but in crypto, it's different. It's just a different animal, and I'll sell some of this if it rallies up towards 91, 92. But I want to build a position, on because you get these really nice shakeouts in there, these rug pulls that sometimes you get them and they, they'll bounce 8,000-10,000 points, in a matter of hours. So,
Well,
anyways, I'll slow down here, Dennis.
Brian, I was going to ask you, one point and then a question for you too. But people don't realize too with Bitcoin too, there are no margin. Well, maybe there are margin calls, but for the most part, what happens is when folks are on margin, they just get liquidated. It's very different, and that's why you see these knife moves down, is because it's a bunch of people. As soon as they don't meet they don't have a justification. They don't have time to meet a margin call like equities. Like equities, you've got like a day or whatever. They just get liquidated. So you don't get a notice that's saying, hey, you've got to meet this. Essentially what happens is once you go through a level, all of a sudden Bitcoin longs, they get liquidated who are on margin. So it's very, very different. So I understand, it makes sense why you would have a different process for equities, because that's why you have these big moves in the crypto market, is because once folks are on margin, they just get liquidated, right? So in any event, I like that strategy. But I was going to ask you as well about MSTR, which was doing a similar thing, which was holding for a bit, but kind of teetering, and that is also broken. What are your thoughts on MSTR?
Yeah. So one point, Christian, I didn't know that they just liquidate it, and that makes sense. That's why you get those beautiful flushes. So to me, that's a great thing. And you always learn something. You never know where you're going to learn it from, but that's the beauty of all your guys' knowledge here, and why you make such a great show. But Mr. is, kind of the same thing. It's been hammering on the anchor from down here when they did their 10-for-1 split. Is this screen showing, by the way?
Nope, but it is now.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Beautiful. So here's Mr. And you kind of saw the same thing. So one, I have that orange is the anchor from the election. I don't remember why I colored it orange. Anyways, I'm being funny there. It's obvious why for the orange man. Anyways, the anchor from the 10-for-1 split on that August low, we saw buyers here, and then we just came down through it. So I'm looking at MSTR thinking, this is just broken for now. But, Christian, the other thing is Tesla did the same exact thing as well. And there's the anchor from the election in Tesla. Oh, where did I put it? Let me put it back. So right here, and we'll just put that back to orange because that is appropriate. Anyways, so Tesla was doing the same thing. We saw that, there was the catalyst of the election changed the perception of Tesla because, of course, Elon's relationship with Trump. And we saw the same thing, lower highs, hammering away at the anchor from the election, and now just a nice quick flush here. And we've got a pattern still of lower highs and lower lows. Maybe we're going to see another lower low. It looks like we should, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Tesla, come down. And this is what I'm actually looking for, is to the anchor from that August shakeout low. That would put Tesla right in here at about 315-ish, let's call it. So that becomes a level of interest on the downside where I'm going to look for, are the buyers actually gaining control in here? If they are, then I want to get long some Tesla for a bounce.
I'm gonna throw a question in here, then I'll let you go, Dennis. Are these lines? This is from Donk and Dave. Are your lines comparable to relative strength indicator lines?
No, not necessarily. I mean, so the volume weighted the anchored volume weighted average price tells us, from a certain date, from that big catalyst, what's the average price? It's not telling us whether it's stronger or weaker than anything else. Just like anything, you could use a 50-day moving average as a relative strength line if you were looking at it and saying, well, this stock is 3 standard deviations above the 50-day, but this stock is below it, so therefore it's relatively stronger. But it doesn't come up with a measurement like that. It just tells us relative to this event, have the buyers been able to maintain control? And what pieces of evidence do we see that they're losing control and that the sellers are getting more aggressive with the lower highs, the more repeated test of support? More often the support is tested, the more likely it is to fail. So when you get those breakdowns, it's really, it'd be a stretch to say it's anything similar to relative strength, unless you're going to compare two stocks to a certain VWAP.
Brian, I want to jump into a few specific stocks that have obviously really got whacked here the last, week. Palantir, we might as well start with because everybody's been talking about it, and I want to get your thoughts here as well. I mean, the stock could not stop going up for the better part of, I don't know, it feels like years, but it hasn't been years, but the better part of a year. We top out last week 125, and we lose 30% in 4 days. How do you approach something like this? Is this something you just stay completely away from? And does it have bigger ramifications for the overall market when you have such a Momo name just get hammered like that?
Well, I think, by itself, Dennis, it wouldn't be a problem for Palantir to have a sharp pullback like this. But when you see that Palantir is doing it, HIMS, Hood, DKNG, Carvana, Kava.
Yeah,
I mean, the list, Axon, COM, CFLT, SWMB, TTD, the list goes on and on and on. So if we had one stock doing it and saying, well, that's just a normal pullback, it got a little bit ahead of itself. But then when you see all these momentum names getting hammered, it tells us, it tells us a pretty strong message that, we're likely to get bounces in here, but I don't think we're going to see a resumption of these major uptrends. You've got to keep in mind where Palantir has come from. The stock was $15, back in here as it broke to a stage 2 uptrend. And that's when that rally began back in, late or mid 2023. Now we've had this massive rally. So, a little bit of profit taking isn't a bad thing. Let me just clear up that chart on the right because it looks like a mess. Anyways, that green is I keep a month-to-date anchor on there. And what I always have on my 30-minute time frame, and I know Christian uses this as well, is a 5-day moving average. So I use it on an intraday basis. And for momentum trades like this, I always say if we're making higher lows above a rising 5-day moving average, you keep raising your stop up under those higher lows. But when it breaks that, then, be aware and look out. And that's where the momentum broke for Palantir. That's exactly where it broke for Meta over here on the right-hand side. And now Meta is toying with this year-to-date anchor. So maybe we're going to start to find some buyers in here for Meta. We saw, the same thing with Intel just gave up its 5-day moving average and made that lower low yesterday. SMCI, same story, just broke a lower low below that 5-day moving average. So to me, that tells me the momentum play is over in these names. And now we've got to look to the downside and say, where is the potential that we're going to see enough buying to offset this? And we're right at the year-to-date anchor, and it's not holding perfectly. That's why it's a level of interest. So we want to look to the shorter-term timeframes, and maybe we're going to come all the way down to the 50-day moving average. Maybe we're going to come down to the anchor from the election. So I'm not ready to buy Palantir yet because it's just, the momentum is too strong to the downside. But it's certainly one that when it bounces, it's going to bounce strong. I think, you'll get a 10, 20% rally in this name just because everyone's going to come rushing back into it.
Brian, one of my favorite things that I heard from you, and I was lucky enough, I think we were at a conference in Vegas, which was great for other reasons too. Nice to do a conference in Vegas. But one of the major takeaways that listening to your presentations, which are awesome, by the way, is you had a big sign through it. And at the time, I think this was around 2022 where the conference was, where of course we had, we had a bear market for that year, but you had a sign with it, and it said circle with it and a line through it. And it said, don't buy the dip. And it said, one of your big points that you always make is wait for price action to start to head back up. Be patient, wait for it to start to move back up. Are any of these names that, in this group of growth that have gotten so beaten up? Like I'm looking at a couple too this morning, like AppLovin and Team too, which are in that group too, which have kind of filled, but are you basically waiting for that too, where it's either like a five period moving average, because that's great for momentum traders. I use it a lot too. I tend to avoid things once they've ducked under that 5 period moving average, but I wait for it to kind of retake as a sign of confirmation that buyers have stepped back in. What are your thoughts on those two names, or is there anything else that you're watching specifically in that growth space that is close to retaking that 5-day moving average, or is it not yet?
It's funny, Christian, is I have a video. I don't know if you recall, during that presentation, I had a sign up on the front and it said, solve this puzzle. It was like a Price is Right type thing. And I had everyone chant out at the same time, don't buy the fucking dip.
I remember that.
So and you're right there in the front row. I'll dig that up and post it later. But anyways, I was, obviously trying to make a point, but, so AppLovin, we've got a couple of reasons to think that this is in a good spot. We have this prior peak, that prior resistance maybe going to hold as support. We've got the red 20-day moving average in there. And this thick blue line is the year-to-date anchored VWAP. So those things say this is a high level of interest for the stock. Then I want to look to the shorter term time frame. So I'm looking at a 30-minute over here. And, for this right now, I would look at this as a if I can look at a 1-minute chart, a 5-minute chart intraday today, then there might be an opportunity for a bounce. And I think it might make it up to that 5-day moving average. But then I would expect that it's likely to do something along the lines of this. And what I look for is that 5-day moving average to kind of flatten out. And then maybe we have a little shakeout like this. And then the real move typically begins over here with a stop under that level. And then the name of the game would be, as long as it's making higher highs and higher lows over here, I would want to be long and raise my stop up underneath those higher lows and maybe get a trade from 420 to 460, or maybe I get a trade to 438. It's up to the market. So, that's kind of how I look at it structurally.
Brian, I just want to ask you before we let you go. Like you're talking about these specific levels and different things. Are you patient? Are you wait for the close? Do you wait for that anchored VWAP, or do you look for it intraday? Because man, a lot can happen between when some of these levels are hit and then where the closing price is. So I just wanted to see what kind of emphasis you put on the close.
I put zero emphasis on the close. To me, it means nothing. Some people say it's the most important price of the day. To me, the most important price is, what did I pay for the stock? That's my
That's a good point.
You can't
That's
do
true.
you can't do business on the close. It's closed. Well, you're stuck. So I think that's kind of overrated in terms of where it closed. You'd look at the daily chart, but I have a shorter term time frame here as well. And if I'm really going to get involved in app today, I would look at it and think in my mind going into it, this is likely to be a day trade because the 5-day moving average is declining and rallies typically don't hold while that 5-day moving average is declining. So today we're getting rid of this data in the 5-day moving average. This line is where we were 5 days ago. So we're getting rid of this data, meaning that even if the stock rallies up to here, that 5-day moving average is going to continue to decline. However, Thursday morning, Wednesday morning, Thursday afternoon, that 5-day moving average is going to start to swing sideways. And then Thursday, we're going to see it will start to flatten out if it's in this general area because we're getting rid of lower data. So then, maybe by Thursday, this stock is ready. It's digested that, sell-off. It's corrected price-wise. It's corrected time-wise. The stock has reset, as you just said, and now maybe it's ready to sustain a move back to the upside. So I would be, Joel, not looking at the daily close here. I'd be looking at where are we in relation to today's VWAP, and then once we have that, how is it handling yesterday's volume weighted average price? Maybe I take some off up there if it runs to that level quickly. So it's all about the expectation of this is likely to be a day trade, so I need to trade off much shorter term timeframes. But be aware always of the bigger picture and what are the expectations? Well, with the declining 5-day moving average, I'm not likely to hold this. It can turn right around, but again, if it was an individual, just one stock getting hit like this, it would have a greater likelihood of turning around massively. But when we see all these momentum names getting hit like this, I think that just kind of makes it a little less likely.
Okay,
one more question from the chat. One more question from the chat, and it's a great one.
Yeah,
why
dude.
5 days? Why not 9? Why not 20? Why the 5?
Well, for swing trading, this is the one that for me, it's up to the message of the market. You see that, I referenced the 20-day moving average as well. But listen, if I'm going to, buy this stock over here and let's say set a stop under the 20-day moving average, I make this much money. If instead I'm looking at the 5-day moving average and, I'm out over here as it breaks this lower low, or on Meta, if I'm waiting for the 20-day moving average, or if I think it's going to be a buy at the 20-day moving average, getting out over here at 720 as it breaks that pattern of higher lows above a rising 5-day moving average. The bottom line is it's what works for me and my style. And I've noticed over the years that there seems to be a very strong institutional presence around that 5-day moving average and the direction of the 5-day moving average. But again, I think Christian does use it on the daily time frame. I prefer to use it on an intraday time frame. So real quick, I know we've gone over this on your show before.
No, that's okay.
Okay, so there's 390 minutes in a day.
Yep.
So if we look at 30-minute bars like I have on the right here, that means there are 13 of those 30-minute periods per day. So 13 times 30 is 390. So 13 times 5 is 65. So on a 30-minute time frame, this is actually a 65 period moving average right here. So that is equal to 5 actual days, and it's not waiting for the close. So if at 9:31 a.m., 9:31 this morning, as soon as the market opens, if I'm looking at a 5-day moving average on a daily chart, I'm actually seeing the average of the last 4 days plus 1 minute. This tells me the actual true rolling 5 days, intraday. So it gives it a much more accurate reading.
Brian Shannon, CMT, Alphatrends. We all know him. Technical analysis. Brian, great education. Love seeing those charts. We'll dial you up again real soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
A lot of information there.
CF?
So much information. You almost got to watch that one over again. But that was great. Love Brian Shannon. We've known him for years. I know you've been friends with him too. fantastic stuff.
He's got some always great to listen to Brian, and I love the process that he uses and so forth. And I can't agree more about some of these stocks that have gone down like an AppLub, and you just have to be patient, and there's going to be, after a big move down like we've seen in some of these names, you got to let them breathe a little bit and wait for them to kind of come back. And anyway, there was a comment in the chat about Nike. Somebody said it's a really good looking chart. I think this is kind of interesting. Do you guys think that Nike has the bottom is in for Nike? It is now testing this line that I've got on my chart is the 200-day moving average. I think that's a great spot to watch because that would essentially be, that's my divider between uptrend and downtrend. So it did take back the 200-day moving average. Guys, is the bottom in for Nike?
I think this is a great example of a theme that we've seen over the last 2 weeks, and that's that market wants to buy laggards. The market is hungry for laggards. Celsius, one of the first ones that was bought, but the laggards are being bought here. So I think you need to keep that in mind when you're trading right now, this is not a Momo market. It's actually a Momo for laggards. So I think Nike fits that bill. So I'm with you here, Christian. It may have bottomed for the simple reason that this market really likes laggards right now. And there are just so many examples. So I think, if you're a trader out there, and I'm throwing this out to you, throw us your good laggard ideas. Stocks that haven't gone yet. I've picked up Kohl's, KSS. Absolutely do not like this company. But I'm long it right now for a swing trade because I feel like we're in the laggard market. And I feel like this is the kind of stock that fits that laggard bill. Now, again, you can always have bad news come. I know earnings is going to come for Kohl's in a week or two. So, that could be, something as well. But I mean, there's just, Macy's had some news here today. It hasn't looked great. But I think we're, pick your laggards because right now laggards are working.
I just want to bring Nike here. You talk about a stock that's in a trend, like a downtrend, kind of gets a nice move. I don't know why it had to gap up a few days ago. But top analysts over at Jefferies came out yesterday and gave this stock a boost, calling it an aggressive buy. I haven't heard that term. So there was a bump after that. You had a gap and go. I mean, on the dailies, you might think you're chasing, but on the monthlies, this thing establishes a bid over $80. Been in a long downtrend, and really at $80 has been a good level here. 902. Do we want to talk China for a second? Or do you want to wrap things up?
I mean, the ultimate laggard trade has been China. That's been the ultimate laggard trade, and it's telling you it's been working here too. So Alibaba, unbelievable move from 80 to 140, back down to 129, bounces overnight, 133. I want to know what Christian, if he got back and down dirty in his K-Web, because we know he sold the top. Did you get back down dirty in it, Christian, or are you holding off for a bit?
I did. I legging back into it, and I was too early yesterday. I saw the dip. I think it was down around 3%, and I think it ended up down about 5%. But so too early on that initial buy to get back in, because again, sometimes I feel like you get out of a name, you get out of something, and my thesis is still like I'm still bullish China. So I may have got in a little bit too early yesterday, but that's fine. I leave myself several, the possibility of several entry points and just kind of stepping into it a bit. But I do like what the Hang Seng did last night, because I know that our topic is possible turnaround Tuesday, but they gapped down pretty decently last night, and the Hang Seng came back. So I think that that's a good sign too, is like, if you get that gap down, and there was buyers there around the lows yesterday. So I'll continue to kind of leg in a little bit. I don't have to do it today, because again, if we look at this chart, like, this could correct, and maybe it corrects down to the 20-day moving average. That would be another spot, but I like China, and I like emerging markets.
All right. Well, a little bit overtime here, but we're going to wrap things up here on pre-market prep. Bouncing around. I mean, should we even trade today or do anything? Because it's all about NVIDIA earnings tomorrow after the close.
That's one thing to consider here too. I mean, if you're putting on new positions, they're going to have the market mover of all market movers with NVIDIA. And we have a lot of stocks reporting, CRM, Snowflake. There's a lot of other names reporting. So we have big night tomorrow night. Even tonight, we got Workday reporting here, which sometimes moves the markets. can move Salesforce because reporting before it. We have Kava, widely followed stock. There's a number of Axon reports tonight. It's been killed. I mean, so the bar, seems to come lower for AXON. I mean, 700 to 500 in 4 days. Holy. I mean, I don't know. At a certain point in time, I think we're going to bounce on some of these names.
All right. That AOA, I just want to see what it did yesterday. Well, it didn't.
again.
It didn't go down as much. And you know what?
That's a win.
Maybe it got everyone out of it you wanted. Your volume really came down to 1.3 million, so maybe a little bit seller exhaustion here. Market okay, maybe you can lean on that low at 496.49. So that's it for today, guys. Great information. Gerald Fitz says, "Love you guys." I don't think we can end it on any better note than that. That's it for today. We'll see if this turnaround Tuesday holds. I don't know. Looks like a choppy session ahead of us. Back with you tomorrow morning.